Lying down in front of traffic, tagging car dealerships and encasing their hands in concrete are just some of the actions being taken by a group of climate activists determined to have their pleas to save the environment heard. Restore Passenger Rail protester Rosemary is one of the group's members, recently granted bail after charges of endangering traffic. She joins us from Dunedin this morning. Rosemary, welcome to the program. How are you doing? You've made it out from behind bars.
It's nice to be home.
What did you think of your experience in Wellington?
Well, it was a pretty good reminder of how much has to change, to be honest.
What do you mean by that?
Well, spending a couple of weeks in Arohata prison with a bunch of young and beautiful and vibrant and energetic young women taken away from their kids, it was heartbreaking, and there's a lot needs to change.
Right. You were in there because you were charged with endangering traffic, and we've seen actions by your fellow climate protesters of late, the spray painting of the car yard in Wellington of most note, and I'm wondering what you made of that action in particular that happened yesterday.
Yeah, it was a great reminder to people that there are some mega rich, very wealthy people who are taking up far too much of our emissions budget, which is actually zero right now. We've been getting stark reminders. I was listening to the news just before I came on, and there's some very scary, very terrifying news around the world. Yeah.
So, Rosemary, I guess the question will be from a lot of people is why target individuals or businesses in the protest actions that are being taken by the group?
Well, it's quite a symbolic thing. I mean, what we've got is it's not about individuals, but it's to remind New Zealanders that we have got to start thinking collectively, and we've got to start by the simple things. And transport, our fastest growing emissions, is the easiest one to fix. It's the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, you say it's symbolic and it's not about individuals, but it becomes about the individual, doesn't it? Because it's the car dealership that has to clean up and tidy up and things like that. So is the point to draw attention to the topic, or is the point about just making noise in general so that your group is known about and the cause is talked about? Because I guess the car dealership just thinks, well, that didn't help us.
Well, that depends on how the media treat this. And I'm not blaming you, of course, but we've all got to start thinking about this in a bigger way. We've got to look at the big picture here. And it's not about us as individuals anymore. We haven't got time for that. James Renwick, our top climate scientist, says we are heading for 3 to 4 degrees. If we go there, He's telling us we're looking at the end of civilization as we know it.
And Rosemary, I don't think many people these days would argue with the fact that climate change exists, the climate crisis exists, and we need to do something about it. It's just the way that we do something about it. So I'm wondering why you don't target politicians who make the decisions about this instead of the car yard or the people trying to drive to work in the morning.
We've been doing that for many, many, many years. It is not working. We are losing. We are all losing. It's not just a few people who are prepared to sit on roads and put their hands in concrete.
And so what do you hope putting your hands in concrete or stopping the traffic or painting the car yard does? That those individuals and those businesses then go and put pressure on politicians? How does it work, I guess? Okay,
well, if you look at how change has been made throughout history, I just found out yesterday, actually, that suffragettes sat on roads. The disruption is part of what we have to do in order to get attention. But changes have been made. Changes have been made recently, and I want to say thank you to all the people who have joined groups like Save Our Trains, not just Restore Passenger Rail, but there are so many groups working for restoring a nationwide passenger rail system, and that would be a small but really important start in bringing down our emissions.
Rosemary, I'm not questioning your dedication to the cause, but when I look at you, you've obviously been on this planet a fair few years older than some other younger generations who will be impacted far more by climate change. And so why is it you that is taking this action, and why are you failing to, or maybe why haven't you been able to capture the younger market and the younger generations who are really going to be the ones that actually have to live with the impacts?
We are capturing the younger generations. They're the ones who are coming forward. We've been mobilising since October last year. The young people get it. Like the 16-year-old who wrote to me in prison last week to say, watching you doing this extreme action gives me hope for my future for the first time in my life.
Was she going to join you?
I hope so.
All right, Rosemary Penwarden joining us.
By the way, I'm not inciting anybody to break the law. That's what my mum told me.
Yes, good disclaimer there, Rosemary. Thank you very much for adding that in. That's Rosemary Penwarden from Restore Passenger Rail joining us from Dunedin.
Thank you.
I understand the point, but at the end of the day, somebody has to be the victim of things like this, and I'm not quite sure at what point you get the action you're after.
I just think when you are trying to get your cause across, and I have no issue with people protesting the things that they care about, but I think when you do that, you have to take people along for the journey with you, right? And this doesn't take people along on the journey with you. It turns them against your cause, if anything.
Yeah,
because people get frustrated.
About why a Fiat car yard was chosen. Like, I don't really understand. It's not a protest at the F1 or... Yeah, I don't know.
And I guess ultimately just listening to Rosemary is the fact that, they've been frustrated over years and years and years of having this conversation with politicians, trying to put the word out there to the public, and so they've resorted to this in terms of being disruptors. And if I go back to this week being Te Wiki o Reo Māori, it was disruptors that, got our language as an official language. They marched to Parliament in 1980.
Campaign.
Absolutely.
And they had a really clear message, and that's where I think the difference is. I'm not quite sure where the clear coordination, what the point is.
The coordination for them was there, the clear message for them was there, nobody else is getting that message, and that is the issue.
Also, but I think, Jenny-May, there's a difference between being disruptors for a really good cause and just pissing people off.
Well, that's the thing, right?
The people that
they've got a cause. I mean, it's a worthy cause that they're doing, i.e. saving our planet. But it's the way you go about it. I agree. I agree.
Fighting for that language did not do it in a way that disrupted people or caused damage to people's buildings and businesses.
I mean, ultimately, they're trying to get attention to the cause, right? But the thing is, when you're driving to work and you have someone sitting in the middle of the road, you're not thinking about the cause and the attention, thinking, you know what, I hadn't thought about that. I think I'll get on board with that.
You then? Because the whole point is for them to say, well, it's all very well that I hold you up for 20 minutes, half an hour now, wait till your whole house is flooded.
I'm saying I'm not the one that's trying to get to work and they're sitting in the middle of the road, but when you are, that's really friggin' annoying, isn't it? And it's not going to bring you on board like you were saying, Maddie. You're not thinking, you've caught my attention there, I'll have a think about that. You're thinking, get out of the way, I'm trying to get to work.
But if people aren't coming on board, then what do you do? If people aren't coming on board... Because what's the next step?
Yeah, a slight delay in your traffic now. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, I would love to hear from you. Do you know?
I'd be so annoyed if I was the car yard owner, but at the same time I can understand that they're frustrated as well. But I don't think taking it out on the car yard.
Protest tips, email us. What's the most effective way to protest?
Rosemary's lawyer's advice. Don't do it.
Breakfast at TVNZ.co.nz, not for your protest tips, but what do you do? Disruptors? Get the message across. How? I don't know.